Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to be here with Lori. And Lori, welcome.
Thank you. I am equally thrilled. Anything that has the words women and empower in it, I'm all over that.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, I can't wait to hear your story. We always like to get a little background on your story and journey that led you to what you're passionate about today.
Oh my God. Well, let me tell you what I'm passionate about. So I give you some context, just a
Okay.
little bit. Like I am so passionate about women breaking free from all the social shoulds that have kept us doubting ourselves, fearing showing up and being visible, all the things that limit us. I'm like the one who goes, nope, we're making a jailbreak, baby. Because there's really nothing that we can't do. And my story is that I spent a good 40 years really trapped in my own uh, traumas and situations. I had clinical depression for 4 decades. I went homeless in my 50s
Um,
unexpectedly and had to rise again. And I had to do it, chose to do it by looking at what is really true about spirituality that would apply not only to me, but to everybody, whether they use it or not, or whether they agree with me or not, but what is the real truth, and using the truths that I found. So that's really my story because now I'm doing great, and my I'm a keynote speaker, and I've written 4 books, and like I'm doing all kinds of cool stuff, coaching and workshop leading. So you can get out of anything. You can walk through anything.
that's very inspiring too, because I know a lot of people who are maybe much younger having to start over. And I know we all have had that story of peaks and valleys and losing everything to start again.
Yeah.
So to do that at 50, I couldn't imagine that it would be easy, you know,
No, not easy, and especially the internal. It's really not the external that's the hard part.
right?
Because from where I stand, everything issues from us energetically, emotionally. And so coming out of the shame, the intense shame was really the biggest piece of it was not allowing myself to go sort of victimy about it and go to friends and go, oh, baby, like I wouldn't allow myself to go there. I wanted to at least have my pride. I didn't know if I'd make it through. I just didn't know. I didn't have the vision of it. I didn't have the sense of self at that time to really say, I know I'll come out of it, but I knew I was going to go down proud and not victimy. So
That's beautiful. So what is it that, you talked about understanding your spirituality. Um, did you have an awareness of it before your last crash at 50?
oh my God, I love that you put it that way. It was my last crash. It was actually 55, 56. So yeah. Um, but yes, I did. I was raised non-religious Jewish and always questioning, is there really a God? I don't really know. And then when I was 30, I met this great saint from India called the Hugging Saint. Her name is Amachi. You may or may not know of her, but she's incredible. And my mind was blown. I was not looking for a teacher. I was not looking for anything. I thought gurus were nonsense and were something the Beatles did. Like I was like, this is not my thing. And I met this woman and it was like kapow, I just lit up. And I lit up for 10 days that she was there in the Boston area in 1988, which was when I met her. And it was an absolute revolution, but I didn't know what had happened. Like I didn't know how to parse it out. I didn't know how to live with it. I didn't She left, I crashed. Right? I was back to depressed and whatever. And I really wanted to know, how do I get to keep that feeling and that perspective, that stance that I get to keep to have when I'm with her, of feeling strong and knowing who I am. And how do I keep that when she's not here? Because I was not going to move to India to try to do it. And so I went on a 40-year journey. Honestly, I went on a 40 seems to be my number for some reason, but I went on a very long journey. And one of the answers I found that really worked for me because when it comes to traditional answers, we don't get along because I question them. I want to know what's true for me in an alive sense, not somewhere that I can sort of settle in and not have to think anymore. I want to be as alive as I can be. And so I found the answer of energy, that the reason some people are so successful is their energy. So, and at the time, it was like something about their energy,
Right. Yeah.
right? It's not like, oh, it's because they're a guy, or oh, it's because they had money when they were a kid, or oh, it's none of that stuff. It's just energy. And then I had to go on some more searching, and it really is all about the fact that we are energetic beings, and that the feminine is where the power is, which is really good news and confusing news for us women because we've been taught exactly the opposite.
Right.
So
Well, right.
yeah.
And you were mentioning too, when we first were talking about, or when you first started talking about all the shoulds that
Oh,
are placed on us as women.
it's awful, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's just insane. Yeah, you should be nice. Now, I like to replace that with kind because if I'm kind, I can still be strong and say no. I can just do it with consideration. If I'm nice, I'm like, oh no, I can't hurt your feelings. I have to do this thing I don't want to do. No, no, I don't want that. But yeah, the shoulds, like you should judge yourself. This is like below the shoulds is you should judge yourself by the toxic masculine. Are you pretty enough? Are you white enough? Are you young enough? Are you thin enough? Are you, all those things. And it's always a negative. It's always a negative. Not good. That's not a kind way to treat ourselves. And if we don't find a way to ease up on us, our lives reflect that, which really stinks because it really ticks us off when we realize it. We're like, wait a minute, I didn't want that. I know, I know.
Well, that's what's so exciting about this day and age is the collective consciousness, the collective conversation is changing, and women are stepping more and more into their uniqueness of whoever they are and being unapologetic about it.
Oh my God, yes. And as you're talking, what I'm seeing is women our age connecting with women who are in their 20s and 30s, because I'm seeing so many women of those ages going, I'm done with putting up with nonsense. I'm not going to date you. I'm not going to marry you. I'm not like, there are women actually holding to that and speaking that message of let's all get a grip. Let's all grow up emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Let's do it. So
Well, and the thought that came to mind when you were saying that about the 20 years old is the double standard that used to exist.
it still does. Which one are you thinking of?
Well, I mean, it goes all the way across the board, but it's kind of
True.
like what's okay for a man is not okay to be that way as a female. Let's just say sexually explorative, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it was okay for the man to do that, but God forbid a woman did it, then you're all kinds of not nice words, you know.
Right. Well, you know what? That is still a problem. That has not changed. Now we may think it has changed because the outward conversation and the things that young women will say, I can do whatever I want. I don't believe in that. But the internal experience is what hasn't changed. The internal self-judgment. I know when I was a young woman, I was terrible to myself. I mean, you would have thought I'd been doing terrible, awful, morally reprehensible things. I hadn't, but the way I was talking to myself about the sexual experience, I was merciless. I felt terrible. Didn't stop me from the action, but I wasn't healed
Right at that time.
at that
Right.
time. Right.
Yes.
And so
I
that's where we have to get in and really do the work. Sorry, I've got something in my eye. I don't know what it is. Um, that's where we have to get in and do the real work. And for my money, it's about really coming to understand that emotion is not you being too emotional. It's your superpower. It's actually your vibrational and identity superpower. And I mean, when you get a hold of that, watch out.
I can appreciate that but it took a 4x4 for me to get comfortable with that. It took the passing of my late husband
Oh,
where the loss was so intense that there was no controlling, there was not being tough girl and having it all together. I mean, a song would come on and it would be like, quote unquote, our song, and I would turn into this blubbering idiot. Um, and noticing how uncomfortable, it's like, it was like living it and watching myself at the same time. It's like, oh, this is not okay to do this in public. I need to go to the bathroom or somewhere. And at the same time, not being able to control it. It was happening. And
oh yeah.
so there's another one of those unspoken, you know, don't show your emotions.
Oh my goodness. Don't make other people uncomfortable, which is interesting because as an actor, as somebody who's been an actor, they want you to express all your feelings. And once you do that, even if you're not becoming an actor, you know, taking a course like an improv class or an acting class and finding the bliss of being in the flow unapologetically, as you said, my God, you just suddenly you go, wait a minute, there's something wrong with that message. Yeah.
That is
Which,
so true. So speaking about, we were talking earlier, impromptu and acting.
yeah.
Um, you were mentioning about, you know, putting our message out there, be it YouTube or Instagram, or is that what you do today? Is you help people?
I help women get visible. I help them make those internal shifts that they need to make in order to get out there and do what it is that they want to do to make that impact, not just on themselves, but from themselves out to others. So yeah, that's certainly one thing. I also give keynote talks and I do workshops and things like that. So yeah.
And
Oh, and help people.
what kind of keynote speaking and workshops do you do?
The workshops I'm actually working on redoing some. I want to do one called Acting Up for non-actors. It'll be definitely for women who are interested in breaking through all of that self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, all of that, frankly, crap that we bring in and we live by and we go, why can't I break through? Um, there's nothing like experience to teach you who you really are, the limitlessness of who you really are. I could talk you to death and you'd say that was an interesting conversation and you'd go off and you still wouldn't be able to break through. But if you do it, and if you do it with some understanding, some easing into it, instead of like going in cold, um, then you've done it and you can no longer turn around and go, I can't do it. Oh, I just did that. I guess I can do that. Where else can I do that? Anyway, so that kind of thing. I do executive coaching. I have 12-week programs and I have a podcast also. So I look for rule breaker women and vulnerable men who are breaking the rules and rewriting the rule book for our society. So,
That's beautiful. The thought that came to mind is that we're all playing a role. And the role
yes,
that was assigned to us as children is not the role that you have to live with. And the role has labels, like being shy or bashful or insecure or not confident enough. I mean, I know I suffered with that personally. And for me, frankly, it finally got to a place where I am sick of hearing myself tell this story. I'm calling BS on myself and I'm just
yeah,
going to step out and show up. And then I just, and then it's kind of, I think back just, even 2 years ago,
yeah.
the thought about being seen on camera and all the self judgment and everything. Now I don't even think twice about it. And yeah,
I think one of the little hints I want to give to your audience is I I went through the same thing as far as, oh dear God, what did I just say? What do I look like? Am I okay? And blah blah blah. But what really helps is to focus more on how it feels to you to really be sharing your joy, to share something that really makes you feel like I'm gifting the world with this thing. I doesn't mean I think I eat chips. It doesn't mean I think I'm better than you. But if you've lived a life, you know something I don't know. It's just a given. You've lived a life I haven't lived. I want to hear all about it, right? I want to hear what you know that I don't know because we're not in this as solitary people floating around in little planets. That's just not how it works. And women know this so well. So yeah, I now love getting on camera. I've always loved being on stage. I just give me a microphone and a stage and I'm happy. I'm one of those people. But I totally understand because the very first time I auditioned for a paid gig, they gave me a piece of paper with the lines on it and it went like this. That's how it went. I did not get the gig. But but
But you showed up.
I showed up and I stepped into that moment of holy hell, what's happening here? And I gained some courage from it because I never shook like that again.
That's beautiful. And the other myth too is using the excuse that I'm an introvert. Because I used to be an extreme introvert, and now my pendulum has kind of come more center. I still love my alone time, but I also enjoy getting to meet people and coming out and growing up in an era where a lot of us were to be seen and not heard.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've wondered a lot over the years. It's really interesting. I've wondered a lot if this introversion thing isn't just a place to hide. I know there are introverts. I know there are people who would rather be alone, rather be quiet. I mean, I honor that. But then I've also seen how, like you say, how that's used sometimes as a place to hide and not challenge ourselves. And I've gone the other way. I've gone from being an extrovert to being more of a combination. And I freaking love meeting people, just like you said. And I love to get out there. But then I need my time to be introverted and quiet and
Reflect.
calm.
Yep.
Come home. Yeah. Yeah.
That is so
Absolutely.
beautiful. So if somebody wanted to learn more about presentation and your workshops and your executive coaching, how would they connect with you?
Thank you for that question. There are several ways. You can go to my website, which is goodbyegoodgirl.com. Try not to do the mistake most people make, which is put in Goodbye Girl, which is an old Richard Dreyfuss movie,
Right?
right? It's Goodbye Good Girl. Um, and the other way is you can find me at my podcast, and I will have to post that so that people can see it. And you can also email me if you want information or you want to talk to me. I've got a free 30-minute strategy session. We can look at exactly what you're feeling held back about, and I can give you some insight about where I see your stuck point as being and where I see your freedom point as being. And you can email me at goodbyegoodgirlproject@gmail.com.
I love that name. I love that. Well, we'll be sure to put those contact information above this interview and down in the comments. So how did you come up with this name?
I was about, I don't know, maybe 44 years old, and I was like, why are we all so unhappy? I got a hold of this question. Even people who like they have the money and they have the house and they have the spouse and they have the whole thing, like, why are we so unhappy? And so I went looking for that answer because that's what I do. I question everything and I want to find the core answer. And the one answer I found was we're following rules that aren't our own.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that's like being a good girl and following the rules. And so what came into my head was goodbye, good girl. And a few weeks later, I went to this incredible 400-person workshop, and the guy put us through this amazing exercise. And he said, who is your audience? We wrote it down. I wrote women. Who are your clients? Women. What drives you crazy about them? I wrote, we give up our power constantly. What would you say to your client if you could do it without getting fired? And I wrote down in giant letters, get off your knees. And then the last question was, what's your business called? And then it all clicked. Goodbye, good
Wow.
girl.
That is so beautiful. That is
Thanks.
beautiful. There
I
was
appreciate
there was a thought that came through my head, but it kind of came and went because I got so engrossed in what you were saying.
it.
Um,
Understood.
yeah, but it is. Oh, I know what it was. It's like we play small so that others aren't uncomfortable. How dare we share our light and our brilliance and our uniqueness? And you said early on the word shame. I don't really think of that word very often, but I think it is. It's like unconsciously somehow, we interpret it, and it has to come from somewhere, that we feel
Yeah,
shameful about being, that it's not okay for us to be fully who we are.
absolutely. We hold ourselves to a really minimized standard. And I know we tend to like to make that about, oh, our trauma, our childhood, or, like the different things that we need to heal from. We tend to make it about that. But I'm going to tell you, there's a movie on YouTube that when I saw it in 2010, it's 45 minutes long. It's the most brilliant. I'll use the word documentary because it is, even though the word documentary makes me think boring. Sorry, documentary makers. It's not true. Documentaries are fabulous. But anyway, it's incredible. And it's called Killing Us Softly 4, the number 4.
Oh,
When I
interesting.
saw it, yeah, you've got it, you guys, you've got to find it. Um, and what it teaches is that we've all been brainwashed, that it's so much of this is just our having programmed ourselves to align with the society, the social shoulds, the social programming that we either thought we had to or that we did in order to survive. And so it's a vibrational, if we come at it from the place of vibrational shift and emotional shift, we don't have to spend the rest of our lives trying to heal from every single trauma. Healing from it actually heals the trauma. It's really powerful stuff. It's what I used to not the movie, but I used that approach to heal myself of nearly 40 years of clinical depression, which was shocking to me. I couldn't believe that I had that kind of power, but we do, and it's
I,
emotionally based.
I remember early on, I'm quite like you in I questioned everything. I was just one of those people. I didn't necessarily make waves, because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to upset the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely didn't mentally go along with it. I asked questions. And I remember thinking, if I didn't think like my mother thought, then I won't be like my mother. But then the next thought was, well, then who am I if I'm
Oh
not
God.
those? And the other thought that comes to mind is, um, who would we be without our story? Are we so
Oh,
attached and identified with our woe is me story that it prevents us from stepping into who we truly are without that story? Are you willing and able to let go of that story and not that be who you are anymore and step
it's
into the
really,
brilliance of who you are?
100%. And I think one of the major doors out of the jail cell that I have found is kindness to myself. It sounds simplistic and yeah, it even sounds a little weak, but there's nothing stronger. I went homeless in my 50s, and that was a nightmare. That was so bad. And so I'm lying there in a friend's room in his house that he's letting me use, and I'm beating up on myself in my head. I'm like, you're an idiot. What a stupid fool. How could you do this? How could you go so far down? You're a moron. I mean, and I had a magic moment, and it wasn't a magic moment of healing. It was a magic moment of realization that I became aware that as I was kicking my own butt, every every phrase and every word, I could literally feel it impacting me on the inside as pain. We're not usually like tuned in to that degree, but I was, I had that gift of like, oh my God, everything I'm saying, I feel the pain. So I said, why don't I go inside and see if I can give myself some kindness because this doesn't feel very good. And so I imagined myself going in and very gingerly sitting down next to one of the points from inside that felt like an icicle with that sharp point. And I sat down and I said, okay, I'm not here to change you. And before I could say anything else, the thing melted. The pain went away. So I spent a half hour going to every point in my body and every time. And for the next 4 days, I was in bliss 24/7 because the difference in state of being from to, I care, you're okay. The angels were singing. It was amazing. It's amazing. We can really make that kind of difference.
And I think something that comes to mind that I've heard that we all do, I had been guilty of it early in my life, is we should be XYZ by the time we're this XYZ
Oh,
age.
yeah, yeah.
This comparison thing. And to learn that your journey is your journey and everything is in divine timing.
It's true, but isn't that the very hardest lesson to figure out how to even get with? I mean, it's just the social shoulds are so strong, you know. By the
And
time
the
I'm
compare
28, I thought I should have a husband and two kids and I should be living in the burbs and yeah, I never got married, I never had kids. And I'm so glad because I really needed this life to work on what I needed to work on. And also I'm very, very fortunate that I did not come in as a woman who was determined and passionate about having children. So that the weight of that was lifted from me. And I'm grateful, grateful, grateful because I know women struggle and suffer tremendously when that desire is not fulfilled. And my heart goes out to them. Yeah.
wow. Well, this has been amazing, and I've so enjoyed meeting you. And before we go today, are there any parting words of wisdom that you would like to share?
I would love for women to consider that if they sat down and listed all the things that they do well and gave themselves just a moment to say, that's not bad. Even that little bit, and especially that little bit, is groundbreaking. That's not bad. That's good. And if you build on that, you're building on your true self, and nothing can stop you.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And Lori, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's been such a delight. Thank you so much.